Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Agarman. Here with me, as always, Mr. Well, not always, but it feels like that
It's
again because
starting
he's
to
here.
feel like always.
Yeah. So Mark is he's recovering from another surgery. He says that he's good for a little bit, I think. So hopefully that's the last one for a while. I think he should be back next week. But we do have a lot to talk about. One of the biggest release weeks of the calendar with Super Mario Wonder, which I've been playing, and we got Randy that has been playing a little bit of Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to talk about both of those. Some news items here. It's not been a big week for news. The only kind of big thing was that Phil Spencer went on the official Xbox podcast and kind of elaborated on the whole ABK thing. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about some like most wanted games from the catalog they want to see kind of either get remastered or remade or just brought over to Game Pass. That'll be interesting to discuss. So we got a lot to talk about here. Let's get into that and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so let's just get this whole housekeeping stuff out of the way here. You can go and follow us whether you want to watch live, which you could do on YouTube or on Twitch or wherever it is, Facebook. Go find W2 Network, and you can find us there. Pretty much anytime from Thursday to Friday, around 12:30 Eastern, we are there doing this show. And you can, if you hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever, you'll know when we do a show, it'll be there. Also, you not only just get what we do, we get everything on the W2 Network side, which is also the Radlets folks. They basically review pretty much any movie that comes out that has some kind of pop cachet. They do the TV shows as well. So they just reviewed Only Murders in the Building season 3. That's that Hulu show that's pretty popular. The Exorcist Believer as well. They have that review out there. I'm sure they'll be doing. I can't think right now what's the big movie that's coming out this week. They'll have some review there. And Tata Keiki is also does their. They just started the fall season of shows. So if you follow anime and you're big on the new anime, they pretty much review a lot of things when it comes to those new seasons of anime. So that being said, let's go ahead and get this going. Remember, you can also listen with your ears too on the podcast side. So anywhere there's podcasts, we're there. Find us too. So I'll go ahead and start with Super Mario Brothers Wonder, the first 2D Mario game in almost a decade. And wow, it really, I mean, I've only gotten to I think World 3. So I played, I think, at least 10 of the levels, and it really does feel super special. Like there is I'm trying, I don't want to spoil things because there's something special about every level, and the wonder stuff, this thing with the wonder star that happens is awesome in every level. It's different in every level. It feels like that I've gone through, and it's just so cool that you want to experience every single one. Like every single one that I've done is fun, and I've already gone back and played a few of the levels because I missed a few of the little the flower stars that you get, because this is the new kingdom, the flower kingdom. You're not in the mushroom kingdom. This is sort of a neighboring kingdom, I guess, of the mushroom kingdom. Mm-hmm. And there's their prince or their king is like a caterpillar, and of course, Bowser gets involved, does something, and you have to then you have to stop whatever Bowser's doing. I'm not gonna spoil that for you, just so you can experience that. But it's a Mario game, so you can expect that the story is
story.
that is exactly your story there. So, you get to play it, so it brings in a lot of that New New Super Mario Brothers U stuff where you get to play with all of the different characters. So you don't just play as Mario. Like I always play as Luigi most of the time when you have the option. So it kind of looks a little bit different than you see in the trailer, but obviously the other big thing is the elephant power, and the elephant power is really fun to use. You can like hit enemies with your trunk and make like there's the pipes have like water splashing, so if you hit that, the water will bounce up and you can get coins and stuff like that with those. There's special levels where you have to do certain things as the elephant power. So yeah, it feels so refreshing compared to the new Super Mario Brothers U line, or well, new Super Mario's line that kind of felt like samey after a while, whether it was on 3DS or the Wii U or the Wii. After like the first couple, they kind of started feeling samey. This really does feel like they evolved that, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, everything that you said has me very excited. This is a game that we'll be picking up in a few weeks or so. I'm more excited to play with the kids, and we always try to find that one game or two that we can all play, and this seems like it's going to be that perfect fit. I do like that there's a bunch of different characters that you can pick, and a couple of them play a little bit different. Like I'm sure our daughter will play as Nabbit or Yoshi, and
Yeah.
which kind of gives her a little bit of an assist mode feel to it, but we'll have a lot of fun with that. So I was excited when they announced it. Just another 2D Mario game. Like you said, it's been a long time since we've gotten one, and really when we did get them, they kind of ran their course because they all felt the same.
Right.
For those, whether it's 3DS or the Wii or the Wii U, they always like, all right, we're just doing the same stuff. So this is a little bit of the old feeling with a little bit of new stuff kind of sprinkled in. Just everything that I've seen on it looks like the details are ridiculously phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it looks great on the Switch. Whether it's on your TV, I played it mostly handheld, but it looks great. The effects like pop off, especially when you're doing the Wonder Star stuff, because they are so different. And like literally, you'll see like one where the like a pipe is moving by itself and doing like a caterpillar kind of run thing, and there's other ones that you use the star to do things like it feels like it's there for you to kind of just run through a big part of the level in a fun way, but it just adds such a special thing. And you do want to go back. Like if you miss a flower star or something, you're going to want to go back and get it because you might want to experience that again. Maybe you missed it, maybe you didn't get to the tallest part of it or whatever. Some of the new enemies are fun too, like that little thing that they showed in the trailer with the little maw thing that opens its mouth, and you have to that there's these things that look like little stacks that there's ones that you can't jump over, so you have to jump over the first one or you're gonna get hurt, and but it'll knock all the other ones down and give you a cool little effect there too. Like there's this one that looks like a squirrel that like shoots stuff at you as you're running at it, kind of I guess same sort of effect as Birdo, but it's not Birdo. There's this like I know I'm only like barely scratching the surface, it feels like, but just it feels so fun and so different from the Mario titles he played in a while. Obviously the 3D ones are all special, but when it comes to the 2D ones, I'm glad that they like allowed younger developers to kind of take a crack at this and really want to say, let's give people something different and something fresh to kind of, and I don't know if they at the time that they were thinking about this was going to be the end of the Switch era, or I guess the first Switch era, and they kind of sent it off with a great bang this year between Tears of the Kingdom and now this. Very worthy of. I think it's going to be in that Game of the Year conversation. Obviously, they're battling against themselves and a lot of other games that came out this year already, but I definitely think it will be in that conversation.
Yeah, it's a good point that you bring up about the end of the Switch life cycle, because the beginning of the Switch cycle, it was the exact same thing. It was Zelda and Mario, so kind of a way to bookend the life cycle of this system. And yeah, I'm just really excited. I've always been more of a 2D Mario guy than a 3D Mario fan. I'm a platformer fan first and foremost. So very excited to give this a shot. Like I said, it'll be a few weeks probably until we get into it. Maybe even wait until we start getting into that Thanksgiving, Christmas break time, so we actually have a lot of time to sit down and play. But like I said, it's going to be me and the kids and maybe Haley hopping on and doing 4-player chaos mode for a while,
Yeah.
which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And it does have online co-op as well. So you could play at some point maybe, and you can play with your friends. You can also do like you mentioned, the couch co-op thing too. So yeah, a lot of rumors are running around again about when they're going to announce the Switch 2, and they did have to take the original Switch trailer off because of licensing issues with that song that plays.
Okay.
So obviously you can still find it in other YouTube channels, but obviously led people to, very much like the Star Wars Knights of the Republic thing when Sony took that down, led a bunch of speculation. It's led to a bunch of speculation about, are we going to get the Switch 2 announcement this year? Are they going to, I mean, I guess they could do it at the Game Awards, right? It's not like Microsoft didn't do the Series X thing at the Game Awards.
And what, I mean, obviously we kind of knew Nintendo when the Switch was coming out, because the Wii U is such a bust that we knew.
Yeah, but that thing was like 2 years of the Nintendo NX rumors.
Wasn't the first trailer in December? Because it came out in March. Or was it March?
I think it was like October or something like that.
I feel like it was really late in the year, and it was only a couple months out from the system. Now, I don't think that whatever comes out after the Switch, I don't think it's going to be called the Switch 2. That's not what Nintendo does. A Super Switch is we continue to try to make Super a thing because they had the Super Nintendo. I don't think it'll be called that either, but I feel like it was right near the end of the year when we got the trailer where they were showing the capabilities of the Switch and having the one person move around and do it on
October 20th. So this week.
There you go. It was today.
Yes, today.
The moment we finish this podcast, go on YouTube because Nintendo will release whatever video they're gonna do. No, I thought it was later in the year, so maybe I was right. Maybe it was a bigger, like a more in-depth trailer that I'm thinking of. But I thought.
Yeah, they did have that like Nintendo Direct that was from like Japan or whatever, like a couple of days after as well, and all that.
Throwing in there, so. I feel like it's got to be close to being about that time. Game Awards, I feel like maybe a more in-depth trailer would be then, but you would want. It seems like these companies really want to have their own day now, which is kind of why E3 has fallen off. So, I mean, Jeff Keighley always has a good relationship with Nintendo, so he might be able to pull a coup like that. But I feel like it's any day now that they're just gonna go, here you go. This is coming out. However, with that said, that's again they announced it in October and it came out late March.
Middle of March, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't expect the new iteration to come there because I really think you want that holiday time, but Nintendo does things Nintendo's way, and you just never know. So. I think that's the really fun part about it, and why the rumors continue to go is because they don't go by traditional logic of what Microsoft and Sony does. They'll drop a console whenever. So now that Mario is out, it feels like it's now anytime.
Well, they do have another big Mario game next month, the Super Mario RPG remake. So I don't know if they want to wait till then, if they want to wait till after Thanksgiving, maybe beginning of December, like before you get to Christmas. But then also, do you want to do that? And then people go, oh man, I'm not going to buy the Switch because there's going to be a Switch 2, And then like, so are they going to wait till January? And then because the thought is they may release, I think the last they ever said something was maybe summer instead of spring or instead of fall. They might release in the summer. So it wouldn't be a bad time to announce it in January or February at the latest, and then to have it come out June, July, August, somewhere around there, where you could still, it's not holidays, but maybe by then you'll have enough stock to be able to have it there for the holidays. So but there's a lot of things going on with the Switch 2. We still don't know what all is going to be in it, if it's going to have some gimmick or it's just going to be another Switch. We'll have to leave that for another time. But there's another big game that released today, also Marvel Spider-Man 2. A lot of so, you know, just to kind of also talk about this as we talk about like what you played with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of talk again about this seems to come up every time we have a big release that is not 60 hours long or whatever. Is how dare they make you charge $70 and this game is 30 hours if you want to get the platinum. How do you feel about that?
I have no problem with it. However, you know what? A non-business sense, just as a gamer sense, I love these games that are 20 to 30 hours. I think that's the sweet spot. Resident Evil 4 was one of my favorite games of the year. Again, it took me 15 hours to beat the first time, and I've beaten it a couple times since. The DLC took me about 5 or 6 hours. That's the sweet spot. Like, give me 20 to 30 hours total playtime throughout your whole campaign and all the extra side stuff. That's really all I have time for anymore. If not even less than that. I'm still trying to catch up on all these games. I can't dive into 100+ hours in all these games. Others can, and that's great. So if they want to use their argument, and I only have to spend $30 on my 30-hour experience, I'm down. But guess what? It's not about the amount of time you play on a game. Like, we could go the opposite. If you spend over 100 hours in a game, that game should be over $100. Like, these games are cheap enough for how much they cost to make anymore. If you want the best experience out there, you got to pay a little bit. Like, I don't care that Spider-Man's only about 30 hours to platinum. I'm an hour in. I've gotten basically through the kind of tutorial-ish area where they've now kind of opened the map up to me. They've shown me all the little mechanics and stuff, and you kind of face off with your first boss. Won't spoil who that is, just in case people are super excited to turn on their system today and play that game. But it's phenomenal, and I will just say this: like, the combat is interesting enough. It's very much like the first two games, but it is that kind of battle system that I feel after about 30 hours is going to get old. It would overstay its welcome at that point. And the thing that people need to remember is there was a lot of frustration with the first game where it's like, all these side missions are all the same. So they cut some of that out, which cuts out some of the runtime. It's okay. It's totally fine. There's only so much you can do in this. It's a nice, compact, open world experience, and it's worth $70. It looks phenomenal, and it plays great so far.
Yeah, I think that's also the thing I would say is that we have to look at quality, right? Production quality.
Yeah.
Are we talking about, and no offense, I mean, I can't tell you how many amazing indie games that are, I mean, look at Vampire Survivors last year. That is not talk about the production quality of this game, right? So charging what I think it was like $12, that's cool, right? But that's a game you can get a lot of hours out of. So technically they could have charged more, because the whole point is to go on runs constantly and do it over and over and try to get farther and farther into the game. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, that's the thing that I always, it bothers me when people have this whole idea of, oh, it's about the length of the game. It's about, you know, the fact that I'm paying $70 for this. It needs to have at least 60 or 70 hours of content for me to do. And it's like, no, it doesn't. There's other things that go into making the game that they also have to look at the price and say, how much can we charge where we feel like we're getting something back for all the production value that we put into this game? You know, think about having the voice actors and all of the graphics work and all of the work that goes into all the intricacies with the game as well. Yes, there's a lot of assets taken from Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales. There's a lot of things taken. How do you think they made this game so fast? Yeah. It'd be like Wolverine. We'd be waiting another 1 or 2 years because...
Didn't we have this argument with God of War Ragnarok? Oh, no.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Directing the canoe, the exact same motion. It's like, of course they're going to just... That saves them time.
Yeah. I mean, you're still playing an awesome game, right? And that's what matters at the end of the day. Yes, it feels familiar in parts of it or whatever, but there's still this awesome story that hopefully people enjoy. And I think we kind of need to. We're always going to have this debate. It's a debate that's probably never going to end because there's always people that are going to equate it to that. And I understand the people that say, "Well, I only have money to buy 1 or 2 games." Or 3 games a year. And if you're going to tell me that this game of a franchise that I love, I'm going to finish it in 15 hours and I'm going to pay 70, that's a ripoff to me. It's like,
then wait.
You know,
nobody's telling you have to buy it day one. You can wait for
exactly.
sales. Sales are going to happen. They'll end up on the PlayStation Plus platforms at some point. And there's different ways to do it. I totally understand. I'm not in a position where I can buy whatever game that I want. I think I've bought 4 games this year, partially because I know I don't have time to play them, partially because
Right.
PlayStation Plus and Game Pass have me spoiled with things to play, and partially because I don't have a unlimited amount of money that I can spend too. So I totally get what they're saying. And if they want to go out and pick a game that's going to give them more hours for their dollar, I don't blame them. But to sit there and go, well, this company needs to only make it for $50 because it's much of a smaller experience time wise, then they're going to go out there and not put as great of a experience out there. They're like, well, obviously we don't, our budget's much smaller because we're going to make less money on it because we can't make it $70. So then they're going to cut corners even more. And that's the one thing I have to say. Like, again, I'm only an hour in. I'm basically through the tutorial, but there is so much action going on the screen. There's been so many times that there's well over a dozen enemies all doing different things all at once. I haven't had a single instance of slowdown. Just the action has been very fast paced. The dialogue all the way through has been fun. And again, if you force these companies to cut their price down because they're not 100 hours of game, they're going to cut all that stuff out. And it's just, this is the experience that I want, and I will
Right.
gladly pay the $70 for this experience. So I hate that argument. I'm not a big open world fan because guess what? A lot of those open worlds, they drag out that playtime.
Exactly.
There's
Yes, they
so
do.
much boring stuff in it where the fast travel doesn't work. Why? Because they want you to travel through their big world to make it work. Like Death Stranding is a long ass game. I love that game because of the weirdness of Hideo Kojima and just the strange decisions that he makes. Is it the most entertaining game? No, it gets drug out at times, but that's the point of that game is to
Yeah.
feel like things are getting drug out. I would pay $70 for Death Stranding 2, just like I will pay it for Spider-Man 2. And guess what? I guarantee you Death Stranding 2 is gonna be 3 times as long as this game if you try to go out and do all that stuff. It doesn't mean it's a better game, it doesn't mean it's a better experience, and it doesn't mean it's worth more money.
So you feel like it's better that they traded more action for putting in side quests and things all over the map, and
I have platinumed both Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. I absolutely love both those games. Their side quests are not great.
Right.
Especially in the first Spider-Man where you had to take down like different thug stuff where they would just randomly pop up on your map and it was the same thing every time. It got annoying to do. You just
not to mention the stealth missions with Miles also are not.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess there are going to be a couple of them in this game as well, and that's fine. It's just a different game mechanic. But the side missions, they were the exact same thing, and you had to get to 15 of them or whatever the number was. It's been a few years, but from what I've heard, they've dialed that stuff down and focusing on the crazy set pieces that you get from the main story. Go do a bunch of collectathons. Again, I just opened up the map, and in the one section of this new island area that you can go to into, because that's another thing, they've expanded your play area. There's 11 question marks on my map, not like on the map, but 11 different things that you're going to collect or fight or save or whatever, and that's just the section. So there's still going to be a lot to do. I think they're tightening things up, and I think that's what I've learned from all of the different creative writing classes that I'm taking for college and stuff. It's not like, so if you're going to go out and buy a book, do you have to pay more if it's a 700-page book that just gets spread out and it has so much nonsense to it, or you want a tight knit 200-page book that it's just perfect, everything flows, everything's great? Because everything my teacher's been fantastic about it, and he teaches me a lot that, like, literally, like, we had a 10-page story, and he's like, all right, now your next thing is to cut it to 5. Take everything you just wrote, cut out all the fluff, keep all the important stuff, and cut it into a 5-page paper. That's what Spider-Man 2 is. They had so much fluff in the first one, and they've kept it about the same length, but they cut out a lot of the fluff and they added in better action for it. So it's going to be a more tight-knit game, and there's going to be a lot of just less downtime that you're going to get. Like,
man, that's great for me. I don't want to. That's why part of the reason why I don't play a lot of these open world games, because I don't have the time. Now, listen, I understand, again, the people that only can play 2 or 3 games a year, and this is your favorite franchise, and you are going to spend 100 hours with it. Cool, whatever. That's great.
Go play Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I keep hearing how that game is unfinishable. It's so
or Valhalla is even longer. You know, like, that's part of the reason why Mirage exists, right? Because people are complaining about Valhalla's too long. So, you know, and I get it. There's so many people that are younger that don't have as much adulting responsibilities. Y'all can sit there for. I really don't know how a game comes out and somebody tells me, "Oh, I played 30 hours of that already." I'm like, "Oh, I wish I had 30 hours to." You know, but
20 some years ago, I would have been there with
exactly. You know, when we had like nothing else to do but play,
and that's fine. I'm not knocking those people. I'm
exactly,
jealous of those people.
and I'm jealous of those people too. Like, hey, if that's what you like and that's your one passion and you have time for that, cool. But the majority of people don't, and the majority also, it is about exactly what you said, and this is what Insomniac themselves mentioned. They have a certain level of quality they wanted to hit. And they wanted to give you the best experience of that. And they took in what people said about Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales and tried to give you the best of that. And that's just what this game is. And that's great that it exists.
Just one last point, and it's kind of just a reiteration on what we're saying, just to kind of nail home the point. If you are one of those people that thinks a game needs to be 70 hours to be $70, then Spider-Man 2 would have 13 different MJ sneaking missions. They would have 50 of the exact same fight that are mandatory to play, and then you would go, "Oh, it's just repeated gameplay." What do you want? So they've tightened it everything. Again, I'm only an hour in, so I can't say, "Oh, it's such a perfect thing." You don't do the same things twice. I'm not to that point yet, but the action is phenomenal. The voice acting is so great. The story is getting built in a very interesting way. I loved the first boss and the different levels to it, and I'm very excited because, again, it's just a tutorial boss. So we're going to get even more over the top later on in the game. So I'm very excited to play much more of this game.
And that's great to hear. Obviously, Insomniac is already having to, they're taking a break, getting a vacation. They well deserved all that. But they're already getting feedback about, like, hey, what should we do next? And there's a thought about, what about instead of a Spider-Man 3, which we kind of all know is coming, what about a Venom spinoff game? Where would you lie on doing a Venom spinoff?
I haven't got to the Venom stuff yet. But if they do a Venom spinoff like they did a Miles Morales spinoff, kind of that in-between game, I would have no problem with it. I really thought this was going to be the way Sony first-party games were setting things up. Was, here's your big game. Next game will be in 4 or 5 years. So in between, here's a small piece of it. Now, it hasn't really hit as expected. The Last of Us multiplayer game has completely fallen on hard times, and who knows if that will come out. I really thought it was going to be Last of Us Part 2, then the multiplayer game, and then Last of Us Part 3, and that really hasn't happened. Spider-Man has made that work out really good. I'm still waiting for another Astrobot, guys. Can we can we get with it?
Yeah,
I
that'd
know
be nice.
Ghost of Tsushima had the multiplayer expansion later on that year, and we're still kind of waiting on that. So it has not really hit the life cycle that I was expecting, but Spider-Man kind of hits that beat, kind of like what Final Fantasy VII has been doing, where okay, here's a small thing in between our two parts. So yeah, absolutely, I could see in that same world. Here's just Venom gameplay that'll be a 10-hour experience. It would be a little bit of a cheaper thing, just kind of a side thing, just to kind of whet your appetite, kind of in that middle point of Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. I'd be totally down for it.
Let's hope it is that. I'm so down for things like that. Just give me, like the UP DLC and 7 remake. That was great. They're apparently not going to do that for Rebirth, but
Right.
that's fine. I mean, they're giving us 100 hours of gameplay, so
Now, I'm still waiting for them to go. We're not making Dirge, guys. Can we just not? I mean, we did
Yeah.
that with Crisis Core because that game was actually decent enough, and we wanted
And
to give you that.
Zach is
And it was
very integral to the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dirge stuff will pop up here and there, but it is not integral.
Yeah.
to the story at all.
You can go play that in Ever Crisis if you want to, or however they're gonna do that.
That's a good place to put it, is on the mobile game.
So you were talking about a side story, and Resident Evil 4 recently released its side story that was $10. Again, Capcom, you could have made it more expensive if you want to complain about games not costing enough. So what you said you just finished it, like
yep.
Maybe somebody like me, I haven't really ever played Resident Evil 4, so I've never experienced that side story thing. Does it add to the game, or is it just like a separate story thing? What?
It adds to the game. It is slightly a separate story. So you've never played even the original Resident Evil 4?
I played like to a certain point, and then I didn't.
Yeah. So in the story, Ada, who is a Resident Evil 2 character, as is Leon, she kind of weaves in and out of the game. Like you see her from bits and pieces, and basically Separate Ways. And what it was in the original as well is what she was doing throughout. So it's basically the same timeline, which works out really good because you kind of can tell how far into the game you are from the different set pieces, and you kind of know what's coming up. But it's just okay. So from where you meet her here to where you meet her, what was she doing? And then it kind of
that's cool.
Or the big reveal, it was on the original version, and it obviously is still here as well, is when you have that big village fight at the beginning of Resident Evil 4 and the bell rings, which ends that fight, you find out it's Ada who hits the bell to save your butt.
Okay.
So it's little things like that. It's a couple times where she's just off to the side and you see a cutscene being played down below, and she's just kind of keeping an eye on things.
Okay.
So it is not integral to play, but if you really enjoyed Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I did, it's a lot of the same gameplay. Ada plays a little bit different, but not so much that it feels like a different game. It's just more Resident Evil 4. Like Resident Evil 4 Remake, I will say it gets a little bit too over the top with action set pieces late on in the game where they just throw so much stuff at you, where you feel like you're playing a Call of Duty instead. Resident Evil 8 kind of had that same issue where the end just became a shoot fest. But the story's fun. There's some interesting cameos from a certain bad guy in the Resident Evil series that kind of hints that maybe Resident Evil 5 Remake is actually going to be the next thing that they do. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, it's $10, and I think I went 6 hours on my first playthrough. There's not as much side stuff as there is in the first game. Not as much replayability. It's more just play it on harder difficulties and stuff. But you can unlock different guns and different charms that you can add to your briefcase, which gives you little benefits and stuff. So it's definitely something you can replay. But again, $10 for 5-6 hours of more Resident Evil Remake is well worth it.
Well, yeah, that's definitely the great part of it, is that you get to play more of another fantastic game that came out this year. That's, I'm sure, going to be in the Game of the Year conversation as well, even though it is a remake.
I'm going to be zero help for your guys' game of the year list because I have played 5 games this year, but it's the top of my list right now for sure.
See, that says a lot with all the things that have come out. So yeah, I guess that's it for what we've been playing. I played more Ever Crisis, got further in that. Yeah, I still love the fact that they make it very easy for you to figure out exactly what you need to do if you want certain things. That's how you should do. I mean, I don't play a lot of gacha games, so I don't know if all gacha games are like this, but I know there are some that are not, and that what they do is they just push you to buy stuff. This game doesn't. If you combine that with the auto battle, if you want pieces to upgrade your character levels, to the character tree, there's a thing that says pieces, and you go in and do that fight. If you want to go and do the chocobo, the chocobo things, you can just send one of your guys on a chocobo expedition. It will by itself go and collect things for you, and then you can unlock more chocobos if you want, or and then you of course you get more expeditions you can do, and there's different parts of right now I'm still in the Midgar section of that, so it only lets you go around Midgar, but eventually once you get further in the game, then in the actual story of the game, I think I'm right at the part before you leave Midgar. Like I have to get Cloud at a high enough power level so he can do the Rufus fight because he's by himself. But it's I'm having fun enjoying the story of First Soldier. I haven't gotten to obviously the interesting part is more about Sephiroth when you get to that. But still, like meeting those 3 characters that I knew nothing about when this game first started, they're kind of starting to get in a little bit endearing, So I do appreciate that, and again, I just appreciate that it's very simple to understand. I want to get my experience level. There's things that's character experience on there. There's I want to just go play a dungeon. There's dungeons in there. The co-op is pretty simple to get into. You just go in a lobby, wait for it to match with you. And if you want to do a co-op battle, they're there. A lot of times the person above you is super overpowered. Like there was a level 63 Red 13, and I was like, I don't know how the hell you got to level 63. I've barely got mine to like level 30, but sure, go ahead. And then the auto battling helps a lot because I can literally just be working, leave the thing on, have it fight, and then I get the experience or whatever that I need. And I don't have to constantly be sitting there looking at it, playing it. I do have to press it for the limit breaks or whatever, but still, so I do, again, I appreciate that they thought about, this is also coming to PC. There is a way they could put this on. If they could put Honkai Star Rail on PS5, they could easily put this on PS5 as well, the way it is. So I think that they have made this game to where it could transition to consoles eventually, and I think it will at some point, especially if it does well on PC. So I'm hoping so, just because I do like if you want to sit down and play it on your console at some point. The graphics are nice. Like, you do have Crisis Core looking battles happening. So, it is fun in that way. So, and I do like that it is challenging too. Like if you don't press your attacks fast enough or whatever, the enemy's going to kick your ass. So, there's a good balance with that game too. So, yeah, let's go on to, I guess, the only really like sort of big news item that happened this week, and it was mainly centered around why not? Big victory for Phil Spencer and all of Xbox that you finally get to say you have closed this Activision Blizzard deal. We talked about it as it was happening last week, and obviously people are expecting Sony to now respond with their own acquisition. We've talked about this, I think, a few times, like what Sony will do or whatever. But now that it's real, now that everybody is praising Microsoft, Phil Spencer has been on the news, I think it feels a little bit different now because Jim Ryan's not going to be involved. I feel like if Jim Ryan was involved, that would be like a main target. Do you think that Sony's just going to stay the course, saying that they're number one, they're not going to really respond? Or you think there is going to be a response at some point with another acquisition?
Honestly, it depends on what the other companies want to do. Obviously, I think Sony would have no problem bringing in something like a Square Enix, which they already have a pretty good working relationship with, and just saying that they're under our umbrella for good, just as a response. But that depends on what Square Enix is looking to do and how much money they would want to be able to be bought out. I don't think anything changes now that this has become official. I think Sony has, if they are going to respond, have been in the works for it for a while and are trying to close things out. These do not happen overnight.
Right,
It's
exactly.
not, they don't just walk into a boardroom and say, here's $30 billion, and the other company goes, we are now yours. Like, there's
Yeah,
so much
no,
other stuff that goes
there's
into
so
it.
red tape and
So
lawyers and yeah.
it felt that way because we had that one winter, 2 years ago, where it just was response, where all these different things kept getting bought up. It's like, oh, look at this response they had. No, they were just happened to be working at the same time, and they were able to close around the
Yeah.
same, or maybe it sped up one over the other because they wanted to get that new cycle out as a response, but maybe it helped close the deal. But I don't know what Sony's going to do. This was a weaker year for them as far as getting games out. We're still getting to that end part of what COVID has really affected as far as timing goes, which is why this year has been so insane with games, because these were the ones that were supposed to come out a year or two ago. But now we're kind of with those games that came out in 2020, which is why Final Fantasy Rebirth coming out is so shocking. It's like all of those games, their next iteration, it kind of got pushed a little bit far behind. And for Sony, that kind of hurt them where, Spider-Man 2 is really their only release. Meanwhile, Microsoft is having a pretty good year. So
Yeah.
what do they do in response to that? Do they go out and buy another company? It's possible. Obviously, they don't want to fall behind this race. They have won this generation, in my opinion, and they don't want to put themselves in that bad state. However, we've seen over the last 20 years that whoever's in the lead kind of just rests on their laurels for a bit, and then the other company goes crazy, then they take the lead, and then it really jumpstarts something else. So like Sony was sitting back, dominating with the PlayStation 2. Xbox came in, really shocked everything with the Xbox 360, while the PS3 kind of struggled, and then that kicked Sony into gear. Sony took the lead, and now here comes Game Pass, and here comes Microsoft buying everything, and they'll retake the lead, and then we'll see what Sony does. But as far as buying other companies, it seems like that's the new trend, where we're going to end up with just a couple of companies that own everything. But I everything else is just speculation of what companies they would buy. But Square Enix would be the one that, just from the relationship they already had, if I had to make a prediction, that would be it.
Feels most likely, right? I think now this is not industry speculation. This is like from an analyst, to be frank. That this is not like growing industry talk about, oh, we're just waiting for Sony to do something. Remember, Sony has already bought a bunch of things. They bought Bungie also from Microsoft, was talking to Bungie, so Sony bought them kind of from under them. And then, they already have all of these other studios that they bought as well. That obviously now a lot of them are making these games, service games, and we'll see if that changes when you get the new guy or girl, for that matter, a new person working as the CEO. Also going to be, I think it matters a lot about what their perspective is, right? Are they looking at it from a perspective of, okay, are they going to continue the Jim Ryan trend of, we are the market leader, you're going to buy our stuff no matter what, so we don't have to play nice, right? We don't have to do what Microsoft is doing, where we're kind of being more we're being a more people person, and we're trying to see how we're like a nice corporation, whatever. What? No corporation is nice. Let's be frank.
Just to show you how Sony is not that friendly company. Look at the prices of their Slims.
Exactly.
They don't.
They don't, because guess what? If you want one, you're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
We actually already possibly have a release date, November 8th to November 10th. The Spider-Man 2 bundle is going to be involved in this is according to a guy that leaks the PlayStation Plus lineup all the time. So he's usually pretty right. So again, I think it's like what they said, $560 if you include the game for the PS5 Slim. So that's not. And then if you want
discount.
Yeah, it's not a discount. If you want the digital edition, remember you're going to have to pay more if you want the detachable drive extra, and also to get if you want it to stand vertically, that's going to cost more too. But like that's the thing, there is a possibility Sony could do something, right? Sony could go and do Square Enix. The big talk is the only way they could really trump Microsoft is if Take-Two made themselves available to be purchased, and they could have Grand Theft Auto as an exclusive game, right? And probably on a scale of this game is huge and it moves needles to the effect of everybody's going to pay attention. Yes, that probably is the only company left available.
Yeah.
I don't know that PlayStation would go after Ubisoft. That would be interesting because then it causes a problem with Microsoft with that thing with the cloud deal. Could EA be out there and Sony possibly take that? I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like something Sony would want to deal with. That seems more like something that one of these other companies we talked about, last week, Disney, Amazon, whatever, that would go and try to take those.
I've already partnered Disney and EA. That needs to happen.
Square Enix would be wonderful, I think, for gamers, right? I think it would be like, this is the marriage that was supposed to happen. Y'all finally put a ring on it, whatever phrase you want to put.
They've been dating for 30 years now.
Yeah.
Or 25 years, I guess.
It'd be interesting how the Nintendo relationship would work with that. Would they still let them work with Nintendo or not? Would everything be Sony, or would it just be about blocking Microsoft? And it'd be interesting also from Square Enix's point of view, because they now have made more strides to work with Microsoft. They're just putting Final Fantasy 14 of all games on Xbox, So I don't know. I do think that this other mention that's in the article is, I think, where Sony's going, where Microsoft is going more about let's put gaming for everybody. Right. Sony is saying, and it's going to also be interesting about what does the CEO that comes in think about all this? Does he just stay the course, or she, or do they just decide, okay, we're not going to go in this direction? But Jim Ryan had him in a direction of, we're going to make this about movies and TV. We're going to make us known way more than just Spider-Man and the games that we do. We're going to make franchises, multimedia franchises of everything. And that might be the way to fight with Microsoft. Be like, oh, you want to do your cloud thing? You want to put games on this service, whatever. Yo, we're going to make money hand over fist doing more Uncharted movies and movies for TV shows. Horizon's going to be a big franchise. Like, right. That's a way they could fight.
Yeah, that way and another reason why I think a lot of people think Sony's going to go out and buy companies, not to come out and own these franchises video game wise, but to own them so they can make movies on them. I mean, think of all of the different, not even just Final Fantasy, but all of the different RPGs that Square Enix owns the license to, and all the movies and TV shows and animes that could be made from all of them. I mean, so I think that, again, that's kind of what Sony is looking for. I mean, Microsoft is very much gaming for everyone, and Sony, like you said, is just games for every platform. And every way we could get money on the same franchise is what we're going to go with. And it's an interesting time for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see what Sony does.
Yes, but before we get there, just to talk about like what's been going on with sales of gaming, in the last report that we have, which came out this week. This is for US only, and this one is interesting to me because the number one thing you talk about with Game Pass is Game Pass hurts sales. Game Pass will make it to where you don't want to buy the game, and in general that's true. But I think Microsoft has finally proven that this whole thing that they do now with their big first-party games, which EA is the masters of as well, of, hey, we're going to let you play this game early and you can pay $35 more or whatever if you have Game Pass. I don't know. You're going to pay the whole price if you don't. And get Starfield early. And Starfield was the number one game of the last month because of that. Now, granted, it had the whole month almost compared to the other competitors, which are like Mortal Kombat 1, which came in the middle of the month, and EA Sports FC, which came out towards the end of the month. Also, EA Sports FC changing their name because there's a lot of people that don't know that that's FIFA, right? Madden is also up there as well, but that came out last month. Do you think that this kind of shows Microsoft there is a way forward of now we can get people to buy the system?
I mean, it just shows that Game Pass isn't horrible for these kind of sales. For the main fact, it's on one console. It's not elsewhere, anyways. So for that to top the list against some of these big behemoths that are always the big money grabs, as you said, FC is not FIFA by title anymore, so maybe it'll take a little bit to get up there. Madden always just is a cash cow for sure. And Mortal Kombat, a lot of people are really excited about it. It's really cool to see it up there because fighting games, kind of have fallen off a little bit. But yeah, for Starfield to be on one console and to be on Game Pass and still to top the chart, obviously this had years and years and years of excitement and build up, and everyone was ready to play it. So it's not surprising in that retrospect. But again, it's a single player experience on one console on a place where you could get it for free if you were on their Game Pass platform, and it's still in first place. So yeah, that's a big win for Microsoft for sure.
Yeah, and I think it also helped to show that there was some people that maybe bought the system and didn't have Xbox before, because you see some Sea of Thieves is in here, went all the way from 34 to 19. Minecraft as well went back up again after
refuses to leave. Minecraft. Yeah. What falls off this list first, Minecraft or Mario Kart 8?
I think Minecraft, because Minecraft had already gone down to 14. Mario Kart 8 went up again, which is crazy. Like, obviously that helps because that's getting DLC. But it's incredible to me that some of these games still sell. Interesting that Crew Motorfest is up there, but again, as we saw with Forspoken, just because you're on this list doesn't mean that you're selling well. It just means that people got interested because you just came out, and there's a little bit of a push there. But yeah, it does help Microsoft, and knowing that if you release these big AAA titles and you give people an incentive to buy them, right? Right now, playing early is an incentive for people. It's been working for EA. It's been working for Microsoft's working for some other companies. I'm sure Grand Theft Auto 6 will do that when it comes out. There's
When GTA 6 comes out, just put it on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just
right?
It's gonna be insane. But real quick, shout outs to Hogwarts Legacy, which got so much backlash when it came out.
Exactly.
Haley is so close to platinum in that game. I'm not a Hogwarts fan. My daughter is finally getting me to watch these movies. I'm still not a fan, but I'm watching them for her, and it's making me less of a fan. Hogwarts or Harry Potter world is just not for me.
Right.
But it had so much backlash, not only because of J.K. Rowling and all of her nonsense, but the game itself. A lot of people were kind of poo-pooing on. It's still in the top 10 every month. It's been great. And hey, no DLC just came out, but Resident Evil 4 jumping back up into the top 15 was really cool to see. Again, you come out with a nice little experience for $10. Not only are you going to get $10 from all these people that bought the game, other people are going to go out and buy the game to be able to play the $10 DLC. Smart.
Definitely. And the fact that it's still number one, we're getting towards the end of the year is incredible. And if it was a bad game, it wouldn't be number one. I think
Hogwarts.
It's still an actually really good game from everything that I've seen.
I've sat down and watched some of it. It's a well put together game, and there's a lot of side stuff to do in that is actually interesting to do. My daughter has played it a little bit. She loves the pet farm that you can have and taking care of all of them, and there's a ton of stuff in that game. So for all of the bad press that it got there for a little bit, and the Twitter storms that came around on it, like Hogwarts Legacy is going to be one of those games that might sneak into top 10s for game of the year throughout, but it's not going to get any recognition near the top. And it's showing popularity wise, at least, that it should be in that consideration. Now it won't with Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield and Spider-Man 2 and Mario and the 30 other games that have come out this year, because this year is just ridiculous. But Hogwarts Legacy has been a pretty big behemoth this year.
And then not to mention it's about to come out on Switch.
Yeah.
So we
So
still don't
it's
have
gonna move up even more.
We still don't have the push from that. We haven't had the Call of Duty, I think Modern Warfare 3 that's supposed to come or whatever. We'll see where that winds up. Gonna be interesting if it cracks the top 2 because, you know, Hogwarts Legacy and Zelda have been ridiculous. You know, Madden's up there, obviously.
And Starfield will get up there as it's 7th already for the year, and it just came out. So
yeah, it's incredible, like where some of these games, like Dead Island 2, has sold a lot more, I think, than people were expecting. So, and good to see that Armored Core 6 is doing well. Obviously, I think the Elden Ring doing so well last year, I think got people to kind of get on the From Software train. Anything they make, where I'm going to buy thing, and hey, that's good. That shows when you make good quality games, people will buy the next thing you make. So,
I agree.
Speaking of the next thing that you make, a lot of people are going to be wondering what is the next thing that we're going to see from Activision Blizzard now that they are owned by Xbox and Microsoft. And Phil Spencer went on the official Xbox podcast. You know, no longer is Major Nelson on there anymore. So it's kind of been interesting to listen to that podcast now, and it's a little bit different than it used to be. But he still has some interesting things to say about what's going to happen with, say, Call of Duty and just what's going to happen with these games. We aren't going to get a drop this year like we did with Bethesda because of all the regulatory stuff. When do you think we're gonna get a drop of Activision Blizzard game? Like just
man,
next year, January, February?
You can't say February. It's got to be a little bit later because February is so stacked.
Yeah,
with video games, it feels like. I mean, obviously they have to wait for other reasons, but to try to find that perfect spot to really sell Game Pass and add all these games, you have to kind of find that lull in the year, which continues to be even more difficult as just every month seems to be stacked with games. But it can't be early on in the year because January, February already is incredibly loaded with games. So it almost feels like that early summer lull that sometimes we will get, maybe that mid-spring time, that spot where E3 usually is, where usually, you know, a lot of games won't come out because they're waiting for the big E3 stuff, and you don't want your games to come out during that time. That's a perfect time to go, hey, here you go. Here's just a bunch. Maybe during one of they usually do a big spring show around the E3 stuff. Maybe that's just when they go, hey, go out right now. It's on Game Pass. Here's 15 games and go to town during the summer. But I as much as we want it to drop now because, you know, they have Activision, it's when is anyone going to have any time to play any of these games?
Yeah, and I mean they have so many franchises that they could literally do like a collection drop once a month in the Game Pass thing that they do. This is the month we're going to have all the Call of Duty games come. This is the month we're going to have some of the Blizzard stuff show up on PC. You know, this is
and there's already collections out there of some of these the smaller titles. You can just release that one game.
It's gonna be fun when they finally do it. It is good that it's gonna add more content to Game Pass. You know, not everybody's gonna be a fan of everything that they're gonna put out, which, you know, that's gonna happen. But it is good that this is happening, and especially, you know, for y'all Call of Duty fans, you know, you're gonna get everything equal. It seems like from everything else that's part of the deal as well. You know, I don't know why he needed to reiterate that because that's part of that deal that they signed. It all has to be parity based, but yeah, going to be interesting if Sony eventually maybe does the thing where they put it in a PS Plus so that they don't have the counteracting thing of, people are paying less for it on Game Pass. So they went and bought, you know, an Xbox or they're playing on PC because of that. But that kind of leads me into our, I guess, sort of other main topic of they now have a lot of these franchises. And we talked about some, I guess, that could work last week, like, what could they possibly bring it back, whatever. But now it's like, let's throw that out the window. Let's throw the whole could it happen. It's what do you want to see? Do you have a favorite franchise, whether it's Activision-Blizzard-King, whatever, that you want to see on Game Pass, or an old game that they haven't brought back in a long time that it should get a remaster, should get a remake. Let's put it back in the talking, in the zeitgeist of gaming again.
I have two.
Okay.
I have two must bring back. I don't care if it's a new version of it, a remake, whatever. They both could have wild ways that you could do a new version of this game. One is Geometry Wars. Obviously, that was a big Xbox staple back in the day, and now Activision ended up owning it. Now it's back with the Microsoft family, so we need another Geometry Wars game. Those are always just absolutely fun time. You can throw Hexen in there too. That was another Xbox 360 arcade game that I think all of us had. But the big one for me, and I totally forgot that this was an Activision game, or maybe it was a Blizzard game. And now I'm forgetting, but I have it in just in one of those bundles I talked about where they came out with the collection. But can we get another Rock and Roll Racing, please? Mario Kart gets all the love in those 16-bit racing days. F-Zero 2. Rock and Roll Racing was my favorite racing game back in that generation. Just crazy, over the top, blow 'em up action. It's kind of like it raced kind of like RC Pro-Am, if anybody's old like us and played it for the original NES.
Yes, RC Pro-Am.
So it runs like that, but you got this chip-tuned versions of old rock and roll music, and you just sit there and hum it as you're racing. You could stick with it and remake it and try to get that old music back, or there's been so much music since then, and they probably have some of those licenses with their Guitar Hero days that you can make a whole new one with just a bunch of songs. Because I want to say there was like 7 or 8 songs in the original game. You can go way more over the top where you're not replaying the same song 7 times in one run. So yeah, Rock and Roll Racing to me is the one I am most looking forward to, either getting just thrown on Game Pass or hopefully just getting a new version.
I would hope that they get a new version for it. I mean, they don't really, that Crash Team Racing remake or remaster came out, not too long ago, but I think a lot of people felt that it was kind of a mixed bag of on that. Like, Xbox doesn't really have that. They have Forza Horizon, obviously, but they don't have that, like, I guess, sort of more what you would think about of just like this really fun, oh my god, let's just go crazy, kind of take it back to like the Burnout days of let's just do some crazy stuff and have fun, and also have like races, and it doesn't have to be in the Forza style. It could be in like their own unique style, and that's what I would like to see if we did Rock and Roll Racing, and that would be awesome.
By the way, it's Blizzard that own it. Is the Blizzard Arcade Collection?
Exactly.
Blizzard Arcade Collection came out a couple of years ago. Lost Vikings and stuff was on it, but I bought it just to replay Rock and Roll Racing.
Yeah, that'd be cool if they do have that in, their plans or whatever. I would love to see them get to do something with StarCraft. StarCraft is one of those games that I like. I got a hold of it in college, and then it became like a game that I kind of went back and forth to. I couldn't keep up with all the different expansions or whatever at one point, but it's a game that I would love for them to be able to take it, make it on console as well, and kind of, whether it's a true StarCraft 3 or just kind of reboot the franchise and start fresh with that, because that was also something that was huge. It still is in certain countries, big in the esports land, so that would be awesome for them to kind of bring that back. That's a Blizzard franchise that's kind of been gone, of the big 3 that they have. You always have WoW, but Warcraft hasn't been able to kind of recapture that magic. That remaster of Warcraft 3 was not well received at all. Diablo is doing its thing now. Like, let's have StarCraft have that moment too. It would be great for that. I'm a lover of the music genre, so I'm always going to say if you can find a way to bring a Guitar Hero, I'm always going to be there to buy that plastic instrument and rock out with some songs, whether they're I mean, at this point, they had to kind of have the real song because, going back to the days of As Made Famous By is not going to work for people, I think, anymore. If that helps them, I guess make it cheaper, I guess, whatever. But this is Microsoft. They got the money. I don't know if that, Phil Spencer has said that's one of his favorite franchises, along with Hexen, that he'd like to see come back. And, we talked about Bobby Kotick last week about how they kind of want to make that come back as well. But if they can make it happen, I would be very, very happy to see it. And I think also one, which I think is hurt a lot by the fact that Machine Games is doing that Indiana Jones game, but man, Pitfall,
I know where you're going. I thought the same
could have been a big one for them to revive Pitfall and make it sort of like the Xbox version of Uncharted.
You and I went the same route when I was looking at the list. I go, Pitfall would be fun because, Uncharted and Tomb Raider, but they have the Indiana Jones game coming out. So maybe they'll just add a Pitfall reference into this Indiana Jones game whenever it finally comes out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they definitely got to make those hit if they're going to try to make that a franchise as well on the gaming side. And that could help with Disney because in that last Indiana Jones movie did not do well at all. So maybe that'll.
I've heard such mixed reviews about the new Indiana Jones that I love the franchise. I did not like the Crystal Skull movie, but I liked it more than most people. I didn't think it was an abomination. I just didn't think it was as good as the first three. But that was as to be expected because the first three are such classics. But those that were like, oh my God, the premise is wrong. I go, do you not remember the premise of the first three movies? None of them make any sense.
Yeah,
they're all over the top. It's just it's the nostalgia glasses, and I love that franchise. So I haven't watched the new one yet, but I've heard people come out of that thing saying, "Oh, it's such a good movie," and so I'm going, "It's the worst movie I've ever seen." So I need to watch it, and
it's one of those interesting things of we're all going to have our opinion on it. It's not going to be this unanimous kind of thought, and those are fun too. Like you can, later on you'll say, "Oh man, you know what movie was great? Indiana Jones and Dial of the Destiny. That's the movie we need to all go see right now." And just another one I want to shout out just because it is a game that I played a lot as a kid. Tenchu would be cool if they got to, they thought that's what they were going to do with Sekiro. It wasn't the case. Now they also own Sekiro, so will we get a Sekiro too? We'll see. But Tenchu would be cool to have that franchise come back if they could do it. And Assassin's Creed's trying to go back to the stealth route. Let's go back to the masters of stealth and the Tenchu games there. So. This is a fun topic for you guys to chime in on, whether it's, leaving comments on YouTube or Facebook or hitting us up wherever to let us know, like, what are some of your franchises that you're hoping you see on Game Pass soon or you want to see remastered or whatever remade. And Phil Spencer actually did, to kind of end this, he did mention that, he's going around to see the studios. He was in Stockholm, I think, yesterday or the day before. To see King, and then he's going to go on and see some of the other studios. He talked about how he's not going to force these studios to make things just to make them, that he's going to let them kind of talk to them about what they like and what they're interested in and kind of go from there. Like, what would you like to do? And, kind of Activision kind of under Bobby Kotick kind of had a different vibe with that. It was just, we're going to keep getting out the same thing until it completely dies. And then even when they killed everything, it was, okay, everybody's going to get on Call of Duty now. So do you think this approach is going to work? Do you worry about them having the same sort of, like, what's happening with Initiative, what happened with Redfall? Or do you kind of see, they've maybe learned from their mistakes and having somebody work on something that they actually care about and not forcing them to work on something is
I think it's the exact opposite of Redfall and kind of what's happened with The Last of Us multiplayer is you get people with a certain specific set of skills. You run with those skills. You don't force them to try other things. If you're really good at multiplayer, stick to the multiplayer side. If you're good at single player platforming or whatever, stick with that. Don't throw toys with Bob in Call of Duty. That's a waste of their skill set. So yeah, not forcing people to go with franchises, but going, hey, what franchise would fit your skill set? I think is brilliant, and hopefully it all works, and hopefully there's some of these companies that have really been dying to do a Tenchu, or really dying to redo Rock and Roll Racing, or all these other different franchises that are out there that would fit perfectly with them. So yeah, I'm really excited. I love that Phil Spencer's not going, all right, we need a Tenchu. You got nothing going on. You're going to do it. Now, we don't know
Yeah.
stealth at all. What do you want to, like, no, go find the people that are really good at that genre and have them nail it.
Yep, Toys for Bob. Let's do Banjo. Hopefully, you're a Banjo-Kazooie fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
We can get you on that. You revive Spyro and Crash. Let's see you do it with Banjo-Kazooie for sure.
There's two wonderful games and one not so wonderful game out there for you to redo and remaster their Toys for Bob. Let's go.
Will he pull Vicarious Visions out of the Diablo team and have them make Tony Hawk 3 and 4? That's going to be another interesting one. Would that happen? I don't know. Are they too in now that they couldn't do it? But we'll see. There's a lot of time now to see what else is going to happen with this. But it's interesting that he actually made a statement to say that, and that's good. That's good that they're not. Just I do hope that he learned from the Redfall thing and understand that if they have projects that they're working on, which we know Blizzard's working on that big that survival whatever that is game they announced a few years ago. Like, remember, you got to have people on oversight for that. Don't let them just kind of. We don't want another Redfall. Like they, I think Pete Hines just retired, which, he's been with them for a long time. And, but he did, they made a point of trying to make Redfall better. And they released that big update for Redfall. Like, you don't want to have to do that. You just want to release the game great from the word go. So hopefully that's what they're pushing towards. Speaking of releasing great games, Epic Games wants you to do this if you're a developer for the Epic Games Store, because hey, you know what? They need content. They need
something.
They need games to show up on their store and not just the free ones that they give away. So they're announcing this Epic First Run, which they announced, in August, which is you get 100% revenue if you agree to make your game exclusive to the Epic Games Store for 6 months. But now they've added on to that you will get all of the revenue of your game if you bring an old game or particularly an old series to Epic Games Store. So basically they just outlined that if you have 2 games in a series, you bring all of them. If you bring 3, bring at least 2 out of the 3 or whatever. The whole point is they want to bring more games to the Epic Games Store. Mm-hmm. Do you think this will work? I know this is more of a Mark question. He's the Steam aficionado here, but I don't play a lot of PC games, so for me, I don't care. It's just another launcher. But do you think that this will work? Do you think we're going to see more older games on Epic because they're offering them bigger revenue now?
It's an interesting way to go about it, and we'll see how things go. I'm with you. Like the outcry over launchers, I don't understand. It's a difference between turning on different consoles and clicking on a different icon on the same screen to me. But I also get that you want all your stuff just in one spot, and that's why Steam has worked out so well, because it kind of was that the first really major one that threw everything together and everything worked, and you had your Steam chat up and everything ran fine. And now we have 9 different things, and you can kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit. So it's an interesting way for Epic to go. As far as bringing in older games, will it work? We will see, but they need something. I mean, they've had some bad press. I hate what they've done with some of the franchises and companies that they bought. So I'd much rather with them just pay a little bit extra or give all of the revenue to older games to companies instead of trying to buy these smaller companies and then running them into the ground. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, this is I think, this is a nice thing to do. It's a good thing to do for them to get money in a different way than, like you said, than buying a game studio and just having then just ruining their live service game or whatever. You need to have games on your Epic Games Store so people actually go into it, aside from unlocking that free game that they're probably never going to play,
right?
And then just closing it and not opening it again. And you really do need that. Like, you need to make that store viable, and if this is the way you can get them to do that, then go ahead. And the more kind of stuff you can have out there when you do a sale like Steam does, then that will make it viable for people to have things on the Epic Game Store too. But I'm all for freedom of having more competition out there or whatever, but it's just really hard to compete with Steam. It's 20 years now that thing's been around, and how many games released on it every single day. Like, it's just, that's hard to compete with, and the way Steam makes it now, the sales aren't as amazing as they used to be, but they still do the sales, and they do the Next Fest thing where you can play demos and stuff. Like, Epic's got to do it little by little, and if this helps them maybe get sort of on their level, then go for it. I just hope that they don't end up screwing any of these devs over or anything like that in the future. But yeah, that it is good that this is I guess happening. I don't like the exclusivity thing, but I kind of get it in a way. Like, you're not gonna be able to compete with Steam if the game's on there. Right? Like, if you can make it as this new version of the game or something that you added new to the game in there, and make that exclusive, then go for it, whatever. One last thing, the Analogue announced their Analog 3D, which is like their N64 console. It's going to work with HD TVs, and it's going to have all 4 of the original N64 controller ports, and it's going to work with all regions, so you'll be able to play games that maybe you couldn't play on a regular US N64 or whatever country you're from. This is also more of a Mark thing. He loves these, like, having these different consoles or whatever. But, like, how do you, as somebody that's a collector, right? Like, how do you feel about these kind of console things?
Interested to see how it works and how things run. I mean, I definitely have. I've nearly got the entire N64 collection. I think I'm 24 games away now. I'm really close. But so having a better way of playing these games is great. I mean, I know there's other ways to upgrade your N64, but it's not cheap. I still have not upgraded my Nintendo 64 to the HDMI port and up-res stuff. So maybe this would be the cheaper and easier way to go, as far as not having to do things myself. Or I'm curious to see how much it's going to be. Analog was not one that was really on my radar until recently. A buddy of mine actually won one in some Twitch contest that he had entered in. So being able to check out that handheld pocket thing that they had, it was really impressive. And I really wish that they would double down on that and actually have it more available, because every time I look, it's out of stock and I'm unable to buy it. So hard to get. So now to them upgrading to this one, I'm a little disappointed. It's not like a Switch thing where you can either plug it into the TV for better effects or you can have it handheld. I think that's what makes the Pocket so good, is because he can play all these Game Boy games and NES games and stuff on the go, and he's really kind of went back into this old catalog that he had not played in. So I'm curious about it. Obviously, it comes down to price and availability to me. But yeah, as somebody as a collector, if there's an easier way to up-res some of these Nintendo 64 games and have them on a better quality, because as he says in his quote, the problem is not getting an N64 system, it's finding CRT TVs that still work. I have one over here in the office, but if you turn it on, it has that high-pitched squeal because it's just ready to die. So I've replaced it with an actual, normal TV, which the games don't look as good on, but at least, I'm not going deaf from the television anymore. So yeah, if it's a cheap enough way to up-res some of those systems, it's great, but it's such a niche audience that I don't know if the money he gets back is going to be worth it for this company to continue to do it, or the price tag is going to be ridiculously high.
Yeah, going to be interesting what the price is going to be on this. How many are they going to bundle? Just one controller? Are they going to bundle two? Obviously they can't sell games with it, but that's the thing too. There's no emulation here, so you will have to go find these games, and that's also going to start being a little more.
They're not cheap anymore.
Yeah,
there's a few that are cheap, but the ones that I still need are not cheap anymore. I am not proud to say I have spent over $400 on a Nintendo 64 game that I may never play because
Yeah.
it's just a stupid bowling game.
No, but
It's
it's
not
okay.
even the best bowling game on the Nintendo 64. It's just some of them are rough to come by now.
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to have the collection, and then sometimes you got to part a little bit extra
Oh man, it's brutal.
with those. So, I mean, we go from just also want to mention awesome for NeoWiz and Liza P that they sold 1 million copies in less than a month. I've enjoyed the parts of that game that I have been able to play, and it's a fun, different take on a Souls-like with the Pinocchio story. So I'm down with that. I'm glad that we're doing different creative things with Souls-like. It's a bit more like Bloodborne also, which is the one Souls-like that I can kind of stomach. So
yeah,
yes. But going from old games to the new games that are coming out this week. I know everybody's either got Super Mario Bros. Wonder or Spider-Man 2 that they're already playing, or gonna play, or maybe Sonic Superstars but there is some other things that are coming out in this week to next week. Obviously, the big one by the time we get to next Friday, and I'm already gonna think about whether I want to pre-order it or not. I think I'm going to because it's a game I've been waiting on for a long time. Alan Wake 2.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Just Dance 2024.
No,
my guess was wrong.
Just Dance. I did own one of the. Like a few years ago, it was a game that me and my daughter played a lot. It's fun. It's fun on the Switch to just go out there and do your thing and dance. Look stupid, but they're the same game every time. Not like Alan Wake 2 that's going to be hopefully by all accounts amazing. And they finally get to do the survival horror thing, so that's going to be fun. And also to play. I talk about great games though. Series that I know you love, Metal Gear Solid.
Why does it have to come out 4 days after Wonder and Spider-Man 2? Just
because
the timing
I don't know.
so brutal.
It's like they jumped it into this October window, and yeah, it's of course this includes 1, 2, 3, the old NES games. Am I missing something?
I forget. This is not going on the PlayStation Plus catalog at the beginning, right?
No, it's not. It's going to be you actually have to go buy it. So
that'll save me some money for a little bit, but I can't help myself. The amount of times I've rebought this stupid franchise, I just have to look over to my left. I think I can count 5 different times I've got Metal Gear Solid 3, and it's not my favorite Metal Gear Solid game.
Hey, I mean, look, I can't tell you how many times I bought Final Fantasy 7 through 7, 8, and 9, and 10. So, I think I own that on like every console that I have right now. So
literally the 3 things that get announced that I'm super excited for the fall come out in a 4-day window. Just gosh darn.
Yeah, just absolutely brutal. Don't you hate when that happens? I agree with you there. Like Randy mentioned, Just Dance 2024. If you're into that, it comes out this week as well. City Skylines 2 coming out on PC. It is going to have problems. They already announced it, Paradox Interactive. So maybe be weary. Don't go out there and buy it immediately. They said apparently, according to them, that apparently it's better for the long run of the game if they release it now than keep pushing it back.
Do you know why they do this? It's because they're seeing the success of Cyberpunk, where the game came out, everyone bought it, everyone, oh my god, it's broken, and then 2 years later they went, hey, we made the game again, and everyone is like, now it's a Game of the Year contender. And Skylines is like, well, if we come out with a broken version, and then 2 years later we fix it, and then we make a big news about it, we can get double the sales. No, I hate this. I hate it so much.
I mean, it also is, I think, coming into PC Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken. So that does help. People will be able to
more people can play the broken version. It's gonna be
great. Not sure when the console version is going to come. It will come eventually, I'm sure. Hopefully when it is fixed and they have less problems. They also just complained about Lamplighters League not making enough money. and they're putting that as a loss, and that also went into Game Pass. And now they're going to release this broken. I don't know how that's going to help things, but sure, whatever helps you out there.
Sure.
Also, two very interesting games that are going to go under the radar. Warm Snow is like a roguelike action game, kind of set in this dark fantasy world that comes out on everything. I think it already came out on PC, if I'm not mistaken, but that looks cool. Stray Souls as well looks really cool as well.
I'm very disappointed with Stray Souls. When I first saw the name of that game, I thought it was a Souls-like version of that Stray game that came out last year. I was super hyped. I was so hyped. I loved that game last year. I platinumed it. I just loved that world. I'm like, oh my god, they're making a Souls version of this game? No, it's not. It's disappointing. It's really disappointing. It was going to be my first Souls-like game I was going to get into, and no.
And the Resident Evil games are going to come to iPhone or whatever. So at the end of this month, and they're going to charge you full price for them. So are you ready, folks? Get ready to play. You know, Phil Spencer did talk about how King is such a huge deal for them. And he got like all these mobile game only players. Well, this is the time to see if that holds up when it comes to that. And also that Terminator game is also coming out, Terminator Resistance, just to mention it there. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot. Minico's Night Market. That's coming to Game Pass. I've been waiting for that game for a long time. It's that one with the girl and the cat, and she goes around different markets and doing things. That'll be interesting. I'm glad that's coming to Game Pass. Too many things out, not enough money to be able to buy all of them.
Not enough time to play them.
Exactly, that too. At least on Game Pass, you know it's there for at least 3 months or so. So when there is that gap, which it feels like going into next year, there's not a gap either. But
I got to get the Christmas break so fast. Let's just hurry up.
Yeah, let's get to that when there might be a sale on things too, and you can think about it.
I'm just talking about time. I need time.
Yeah. Just need time. Just need all of that. Speaking of time, that's all the time we got for this week. We will definitely be back next week. Mark should be on next week. I think we're going to try to hit for Thursday. I did want to be on next Friday to talk about Alan Wake too, but we'll see. And thank you, Randy, again for being on. You've been my emergency person.
Yeah. I played something this week, so it actually worked out.
Yes, for sure. Again, thanks so much for that. And we'll, subscribe, follow, like, whatever you do. If you enjoy the show, that helps us grow and more people can find us. We're on podcasts as well. If you want to do that, just search Video Games to the Max, search for Atlas Broadcasting. They do a great job over there. And we'll see you all next week. Enjoy Mario, Spider-Man, all that, all your games. Later, everybody.